Sanjaya Uvacha Asmakam tu Vishishtaye Tani Bodha Dvijottama Nayaka Mama Sainyasya Sajñartam Tambravimite Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitinjayaha Ashwattama Vikarnascha Saumadattistataivacha Anye cha bahava shura madarte tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha aparyaptam tadasmakam bhalam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam dvidametesham bhalam bhimabhirakshitam अयनेषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागमवस्थिताः भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि तस्य सञ्जनयन् हर्षं कुरुवृद्धपितामहः सिंहनादं विनद्योच्चैः शङ्खं दद्मौ प्रतापवान् ततशङ्काश्च भैर्यश्च पणवानकगोमुखाः सहसैवाभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दस्तु मूलोऽभवत् ततः श्वेतैर्हयैर्युक्ते महति स्यन्दने स्थितौ माधवः पाण्डवश्चैव दिव्यौ शङ्खौ प्रदध्मतुः. Now in verse 7 of chapter 1, Duryodhana conveying two things to Dronacharya. Number 1, seeing the Pandava army which is lesser in strength comparatively, our Kaurava army shouldn't have an unconscious neglect or any indifference. Number 2, even though Pandava army is standing with great warriors of self-righteousness led by Sri Krishna Paramatma himself, our Kaurava army shouldn't be intimidated by that. In verse 8, Duryodhana trying to encourage Dronacharya by saying that both Bhishma and Dronacharya are irreplaceable personalities and warriors on the face of earth. So no humans or devils or demigods could defeat them. Duryodhana is also pointing out that Dronacharya is backed up by Karna, Kripacharya and so many mighty warriors in Kaurava army. So they were, both Karna and Kripacharya are said to be immortals at the time of the history. Duryodhana is also emphasizing to Dronacharya that this is not a war between good and bad. Since Pandava army was led by Sri Krishna Paramatma and other mighty warriors, it doesn't mean we are bad. Our Kaurava army also has many mighty warriors including Dronacharya's own son Ashwattama and Vikarna and Kripacharya, Karna, etc. Even though Pandava army may seem to have more morally righteous warriors than us, in front of you, that is Dronacharya and Kripacharya, they won't last long in the battle. So please give no space to any traces of fear or hesitation in your mind. That's what Duryodhana said to Dronacharya. Now Sanjaya is conveying this to Dhritarashtra on how horror-struck Duryodhana is at the battlefield and the battle is about to begin. So Duryodhana in his mind comparing both his side of the army and Pandava side of the army. If you see, Pandava side of army has Arjuna blowing his conch at the very moment ready to fight the battle. Kaurava side, Duryodhana himself is startled by this, rushing to Dronacharya to convey his fear. In Pandava side, all are united for one common cause and integrated perfectly as they have one common goal. In Kaurava side, the intentions and willingness to fight the battle among the Kaurava warriors seem to not very strong and united. In the Pandava side, the army is led by Krishna, even though Drishtadyumna is leading the army. Sri Krishna Paramatma is a mere charity. He is the one who is leading and guiding the Pandavas. In the Kaurava side, even though it's led by Bhishma, Drona, Karna, etc., they are all very friendly towards Pandava in their heart, as they are the Pandavas' own grandparents, uncles and friends. Duryodhana finally starting to feel he has no single warrior to fight against Pandavas with as much as rage, revenge or fears a warrior should have. Whereas at Pandava's side, Bhima, Shikanti, Drishtadyumna, etc. are aligned with specific targets in their mind and showing no hesitation or fear to fight and kill. In verse 11 and 12, Duryodhana finally addressing his warriors to get ready for the battle and to protect Bhishma by all means. Bhishma, listening to this, blew his conch very loudly, thus creating alertness to all the assembled warriors in the Kaurava side. Following that, all the war drums, cow horns, kettle drums started to blare forth, signaling the beginning of the battle. Seeing this in the opposing side, in Pandava army, both Krishna and Arjuna also blew their conches. Spiritually speaking, the ego mind, that is Duryodhana, metaphorically, when the spiritual seeker submits his sensory perception, that is Pandavas, to the divine within, that is Sri Krishna Paramatma, the ego mind doesn't give up very easily. It takes the ally of samskaras, habits, negativity, laziness, anxiety, etc. to hinder the path of the spiritual seeker. We should also understand that the Sattvic part of the seeker are also guided by the emotions like meditating, practicing pranayama, etc. And the bad part like laziness, procrastinations, these are also guided by emotions of our mind. So the difference that the former is guided consciously by the will of the seeker, whereas the latter is guided by the samskaras, which is unconscious personality, habits and emotions. That's the reason we as a spiritual seeker should be very alert and conscious of our actions, our thoughts, and also the way we perceive the happening around us. Unlike Kurukshetra, we can't win our ego mind once and for all and be done with it. We should constantly be aware of how deep our point of awareness is inside rather than keeping it shallow, which makes us victim of emotional mind for every happening in our surrounding. So Sri Krishna Paramatma in coming chapters explain it very beautifully and clearly on how to practice this point of awareness for a seeker. As a practice every day in every way, we can try to deepen our plane of awareness to a point where the outer world gradually will no longer have power to instigate us in any way. That is the goal and means to attain for any spiritual seeker. Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare.